You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome in again to another edition of RBLR Lightning here at RBLR Sports. My name is Eureka, and we are just a few hours away, really, from the ending of the Creative Loafing Best of the Bay, so I have to get this out of the way right now. As you were listening to this, there's a link in the description. I ask you to do one thing. Click that little link, and if you would be so kind, vote for us for Best Podcast. You only have a day or so to do that. Voting ends on the 9th, so thank you to everyone that's already voted. And thank you to you who is about to click that link and vote for us. So we're here to give you another 5-star performance with you. With me to do that, of course, are my two line mates. First, the man with the plan, that is Chris Glazier. What's up, Chris? How are you, sir?
Feeling good, man. A couple days away from the Bucks home opener on defending our Super Bowl turf against the Cowboys. So definitely excited. Looking forward to the big game on Thursday, and definitely ready to talk some Lightning hockey.
And of course, the other guy that I'm just firing up one-timers, getting him ready for it, that would be Jake Ricker. Jake, what's going on, my man?
Nothing much, Eureka. Just get excited as we inch closer and closer to that hockey season. Chris mentioned football coming up here, so a lot of fun things on the horizon that I'm super excited to talk about.
You know, over the next few weeks after this episode, we will start kind of getting into our previews of the positions, goalies, good, bad, defenders, forwards. That's all as we inch towards opening night, which is very, very, very close. It's kind of like it's far enough that I'm anxious for it, but it's close enough that it's like we got to get ready. It's awesome. So take that jersey to the dry cleaners, get it ready, get it just excellent, pressed, ready to go for opening night, which is around the corner. But this week we will talk about a couple topics, tangentially really about the Lightning, but still pretty fun. The first topic is that the news broke since last we spoke that the NHL players are going to be in the Olympics for the first time since 2014. The Players Association and the NHL released a statement saying that a deal has been reached to have that break. Jake, you know, you and I had talked about the schedule. There is that nice little break, and the NHL players will be going over to play some hockey in the Olympics. It should be around February 4th to February 20th. But Jake, I mean, this is big news, man. There was kind of a contentious thing why the players weren't able to go in 2018. How do you feel about NHL players in the Olympics?
Oh, I'm super excited because, you know, I know everybody always enjoys cheering on Team USA at the Olympics, and obviously hockey is something we all enjoy as hockey fans, and, you know, it's been a bummer having the NHL players in the Olympic Games, at least the last year that it happened, and it always makes it a little more exciting, I know, for me, having those NHL players in there, getting to see these big superstar teams battle it out, some teammates and some opponents you don't normally get to see in the NHL. So very happy they were able to come to an agreement and get things set up. And, you know, it's nice, too. It solidifies that schedule for us, too, as well, so we know for sure, because there was that potential chance of having a schedule that was a little different from the one that we saw if they weren't able to play in the Olympics. So I think and being in the Olympics is good for hockey too, you know, just casual Olympic fans maybe who are watching it and get to see these players play. It's always a good thing for the NHL as well. So super excited. Cannot wait to see how many Bolts are able to get over there on the Olympic roster and potentially play for gold.
Yeah, Chris, we are going to break down kind of who we think are the top players for some of the top teams that we expect to play in the Olympics. But overall, man, I mean, how did it feel without NHL players a few years ago, and are you excited to have them back this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this is good for the sport in general. It's kind of cool to get to see teammates go against each other when the countries are playing each other. A little bit of chirping and having a good time out there. So, yeah, it's good for the sport. I'll definitely be tuning in. Definitely be pulling for Team USA, of course. Canada's definitely going to be a dangerous team, along with Russia out there. So I think USA's definitely got it's definitely got to put in some hard work to make gold happen. But I'm definitely glad it's coming back, and I'm glad the NHL players will be back in it for sure.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that they were able to put this together because looking at the situation last time, the owners didn't want the players to go, whether that's because of, they want money. They literally couldn't work a deal out with the international community and the federations to because it was in Russia last time, I believe, and they weren't able to figure out some kind of way to get compensated for the players over there. But also maybe just on a more basic level, you're worried about guys getting injured for a 2-week exhibition that would have been maybe your all-star break or something. But now they're going out there and they're competing. And so the last time we saw the Russians win on their home ice with a team full of KHL guys, right? So things are going to be a little different. Jake, are you surprised? Did this surprise you that they were able to broker a deal for this?
Honestly, no, just because, the Olympics are a big deal and the NHL is typically in the Olympics for the most part. I think last time it was kind of a fluke there that they weren't able to do it. So I'm not surprised. And, it's funny you mentioned like teams like Russia who have a lot of younger players, and it definitely is a benefit to teams like Russia, Sweden, and the Czech Republic. They actually get some NHL players to help them out, and it makes it a little more competitive too. So I think it's a good thing from an Olympic standpoint as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, without a doubt, the best of the best play in the NHL, and so without the NHL, then you don't. I mean, as on the flip side, though, Chris, is there? Are you maybe? Is there like? Are we missing out on some of the amateurism of the Olympics, or does that really not matter?
No, I don't really think that matters too much. I think it will definitely draw in more fans and better ratings with NHL players in there instead of some amateurs or the KHL guys. So I think yeah, I think it'll be good. Like I said, I think it's good for the sport. I think the NHL players being in it is a lot more entertaining, personally. So I would watch regardless, though, just because I enjoy the sport and I usually, I like to root for our country no matter what. I'm not huge into the Olympics, I would say, but if it's like hockey or a sport like that, I could tune in and definitely give it a watch to cheer on Team USA.
All right, guys. Well, let's maybe break down who we think some of these top teams are going to be. I'm gonna just, for the sake of argument, go ahead and start with Canada, just because their coach will be a guy familiar to all of us. That would be one Stanley Cup back-to-back winning John Cooper is the coach of Canada, and he's going to have at his disposal probably a number of his talent that he has here in Tampa. Maybe they can get on the same plane together. I mean, just looking at this, Braden Point is a Canadian, Sorelli, Killorn, Matthew Joseph, maybe. Is there anyone I'm missing, Jake? Is there anyone I'm missing on Canada's team?
I think that wraps it up for the most part there. But yeah, this Canada should be a fun one to watch if you're a Lightning fan with Steven Stamkos. He should more than likely be a more for sure guy to make the roster. Braden Point, Alex Killorn. There's so many good players that come out of Canada. Killorn could probably make a USA roster or a Czech Republic roster, but Canada, that's a tough one to do. You got to be a really good player to make that Canadian roster. But hey, maybe we get kind of a Tampa Bay Lightning line like Cooper did in the All-Star game when we had so many of those guys. Although I think Stamkos and Point are probably the two for sure ones that we will more than likely see with Canada, but good for Cooper as well. Definitely deserves that opportunity. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he coached one of the Olympic team, not an Olympic team, but one of the World Juniors teams as well. So
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
familiar
that's
for him
correct.
too.
Yeah, he's done a little bit of international duty a few years ago. Chris, though, I didn't say Steven Stamkos, I don't believe. I was kind of hoping that Jake would drop that. But, like, do you think Stammer would even be on the first line of that Canadian team? I mean, Jake brought it up a lot of talent on the Canadian team here.
He could be because he's a captain and a leader, so I could see it happening. It's obviously depends on his health too. Hopefully, he can make it. Knock on wood to the Olympics without getting hurt the way the bad luck Stamkos has had, lately. So he stepped up in the playoffs for us. So I'm hoping he's back to being healthy and feeling good. So it's definitely a possibility. I mean, obviously, Team Canada's the most loaded team in the Olympics. They're going to be a tough out. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't lose a game. I mean, looking at the potential lines, it's ridiculous the amount of talent. You got to create an all-star team on here like a video game. So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, Stamkos could definitely have that spot on that first line, man. I think he's a very well-respected guy in the league, and I think a lot of players, the younger guys, look up to him as a leader, and he's he's usually our voice in the locker room, or you can hear him on the bench telling the guys to hang in there. So, as far as leadership goes and in skill, man, Stamkos has definitely got the ability to be on that Canadian first line.
All right, Jake, I'll ask you, and then I'll have Chris. For Canada, who would be your first six that you're putting out there?
Well, first of all, let me say I didn't even notice, Eureka, that you didn't mention Stamkos.
Sorry, I tried to drop that in there for you.
That
buddy.
one was right by me, but he's just that good. I thought you might want to put him in there. But top six, man. Oh man. So I'm gonna say this in no particular order either. Obviously, Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby are gonna be up there. Nathan McKinnon. I think Braden Point for sure should be in your top six. Steven Stamkos, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then really that sixth spot, there's a lot of different ways you could go. I'm going to go with Mitch Marner probably, which might be a surprise for some people, but I was watching a video from the hockey guy who I know a lot of people really enjoy. He makes awesome videos. And he was talking about how Marner, he's really good at setting up players and being that, kind of pass first type of player. So I think he could work really well in a top six on Team Canada.
Chris, what's your starting lineup? Goalie, 2 defensemen, 3 forwards.
Ooh, starting lineup. Oof, man.
Because
I'm going.
You got a battle there.
I'd go McDavid over Crosby. I mean,
Okay.
I hate Sidney Crosby. I can't stand him. So I just don't care for the guy. He has no respect for me. McDavid,
no.
I actually respect. And I think McDavid's obviously a phenomenal player. So I'd have to put McDavid up there. Got to go with McKinnon. I like Scheifele, but I think McKinnon would beat Scheifele out. And then, man, you know what? I would roll my boy Stamkos. So Stamkos, McDavid, McKinnon. Defense. Ooh, man, there's some good young defensemen out there. Man, I'd probably go with Dougie Hamilton. And honestly, I like Aaron Ekblad. I think Aaron Ekblad's a little underrated. I've seen a couple of, actually I've seen him play a lot since he's been on Florida. So, and then goalie move, man, that's tough because you got the old vet Price, and then you're looking at a guy, and then obviously Fleury's a vet too. So I would, out of respect, I'd probably give the starting job to Price. I think Fleury could handle it too, but I think I would have to definitely go with Price in that trying to lead Team Canada to gold.
Let's move on to another team that I will bring up, which is Russia. In no particular order, I think Russia's another team that I think we're looking at a good offense, and definitely goaltending is a strength for them as well. Jake, what do you feel about Russia can they repeat as gold medal winners, and who would be your starting lineup?
Yeah, Russia's obviously another team that's really, really good when you throw those NHL players in. There's no question they could compete for a goal. and especially because of the goaltender, who I'll get to through our starting lineup. But you know, as much as I am not a fan of the guy, just because I am a big rival of the Washington Capitals, obviously you're going to put Alex Ovechkin on that first line.
Okay.
But because he's just got such a good shot, especially sitting over in that circle. So obviously Ovechkin over there. On the other side, Nikita Kucherov, which, by the way, think about, people talk about our power play with Kucherov and Stamkos. I mean, Ovechkin and Kucherov both sitting on either circle. How do you defend that? I don't think you can. That's pretty crazy right there. But and then for center, you probably go Malkin. I would say would probably be the
I think
best
so.
option. So Ovechkin, Malkin, Kucherov. When it comes to defensemen, I want to be biased here, but obviously got to go with Mikhail Sergachev because he's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. But Kucherov, or excuse me, Sergachev, I don't know. He had a down year last year, I felt, for the Lightning, but he's still a really good young defender, too. So, him working out there with Kucherov is probably a plus as well. Another reason you maybe put him on that first line, just because he kind of knows Kucherov at least and can play well with him. And then left defense is kind of tough. I guess you go with Provorov on that one. I don't really know a bunch of the left defenders as well as some of the other guys. But then goalie, you obviously got to go with Andre Vasilevsky there. I mean, how could you not? The two-time Stanley Cup champion, obviously with the back-to-backs, a Vezina trophy winning, should have been a two-time Vezina winner. But Vasilevsky is just a goalie that, I mean, you could put Vasi on pretty much any team you wanted, and he instantly gives them a chance to win night in, night out. So that's another big reason why Russia would be a gold medalist favorite. A Russia versus Canada matchup, that would be a pretty darn good gold medal matchup for hockey fans.
Chris, he brings up Ovi and Malkin, but I mean, even their second line, or in that instance of like Tarasenko, Nemestikov, Kaprizov. I mean, that's pretty scary. Russia has a lot of big names, as much as Canada kind of seemed, like you said, an all-star like NHL 22 game team. But what are your thoughts on Team Russia here?
Yeah, I would. Well, first of all, I can't even pronounce half of their last names if I'm looking at a potential roster. So I'm not even gonna try to butcher half of these Russians' names. So, yeah, man, I would have to agree with Jake 100%. I mean, how do you not have Ovechkin, Kucherov, and then a guy like Malkin on your first line? I think there's no one else you could really replace those guys with. You're looking at two. I mean, obviously, Kuch is probably going to be a future Hall of Famer, and so is Ovechkin. So you could be looking at maybe three with Malkin. I don't know. It's possible. Hall of Famers on one line, and then obviously, like I think Jake said, Sergachev did kind of have a down year for the Bolts last year, but we all know the talent and the skill set that Sergachev has and the high draft pick he was. So he's the future of definitely defenseman. So I'd have to roll with the same line that Jake said, and obviously Vasilevsky, man, what else do you say about the guy? He's done it all, and before he's 25 years old. So, man, having that team, I would definitely love to be the coach of that team, and I would definitely probably love to be on that team, man. I'm sure a bunch of Russians partying after winning the gold medal is probably nothing like a party like that, So, I definitely a loaded team for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen some of the social media now that the Cup has been over in Russia very recently. So
Yes,
the
the video
I can
with
only
Kuch and Sergachev and Vasi all in the car together was fantastic, both holding their trophies, so it was definitely awesome.
Well, as I'll transition, and a team that might be underrated here is Sweden. Now, we talked about defense and kind of, Russia's young, Canada's pretty well balanced, but Sweden, I think, defense is their strength, and of course, they're headed up by our own Victor Hedman. So, Jake, how are you feeling about Sweden's chances against two powerhouse offenses like Canada and Russia?
Yeah, well, you make a good point. Sweden's got a really good defense, so they might be the one team that could do pretty well against Russia or Canada. But their forward core, it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, you got all these NHL players in here. You're going to have a good team, but they would definitely need to rely on their defense. There's no question about that because it's definitely their strongest point with how good those other offenses are. I mean, that's tough. But yeah, I mean, looking at defense, Victor Hedman, even Rasmus Dahlin, you got OEL on there, Eric Carlson, John Kling. I mean, that defense is just absolutely unstoppable right there. So the goaltender position's interesting for them as well. You know, you could see someone like Robin Lehner maybe. He's okay. I don't know. He's had some bright spots with Vegas, and he's going to be the starter now for Vegas as well. So we'll kind of get maybe a good. That's the other thing too. We even mentioned Eureka. These are just projections and guesses of the Olympic roster.
Sure,
We don't know what it's
sure.
going to look
We have
like.
no idea.
A lot of that
Yeah.
can depend on how these guys play. You know, if there's a like Alex Killorn, for example, if he comes off and has one of his best years, maybe he does make the Canadian roster. So I think that's something to
Right.
keep on as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For all intents and purposes, this kind of works out to be the All-Star game or whatever. So yeah, if a guy's in good form, I don't see why they wouldn't bring him over and have him continue to play. Chris, how are you feeling about Sweden? Do you think they have a shot? No chance in hell. Like, what are you thinking about Sweden?
No, of course they got a shot. I think you're ranking them about right. I would think that Canada would be one. I think Russia will be two. Sweden and USA probably 3 and 4, could go either way. So I think Sweden has a chance to fall into a medal game if they play some good hockey. You got guys, yeah, like Peterson, Zibanejad, Nylander, Backstrom, Landeskog, Nyquist. I mean, Flip Forsberg, William Karlsson. Yeah, I mean, looking at the roster, it's not too bad. And then, man, for me, for defense, I would have Victor Hedman and Karlsson together because I remember when we had the All-Star game here, and they were both rocking the pirate hats around Gasparilla time, and we all thought he was going to be coming here, and he wasn't. He went to San Jose, so I thought that was pretty cool when they were hanging out together. So, and they both had the long hair back then, so I would definitely roll with Hedman and Karlsson together. Goalie would be a toss-up, though, man. I'm kind of with Jake on a Leonard Markstrom, maybe see who has the hot hand first. Either one. I'm not. They're okay. They're middle of the pack to me. Nothing standing out between either goalie, so you could probably flip a coin in my book and roll with the hot hand on that one. But yeah, man. I mean yeah, they got a chance. They got a chance. Looking at the roster, Sweden actually has a pretty solid team.
Well, you had brought up the American team, and that's where I wanted to go next. And the other thing, Jake, Chris, you won't even touch the Russian names, but you're sitting here firing off Sweden names. So we got to get you some work on the Russian, man.
Ancestry
You're all
DNA,
about
man.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say there's got to be something in there. All right. Well, let's move along to the United States here. I think USA, they don't have the top offense in my opinion. I would think they're pretty just well-rounded overall and might be the most entertaining of the group, especially if some young guy, like we saw TJ Oshie kind of come out of nowhere and he became a superstar overnight just because he definitely earned it, but it was I wouldn't have guessed that TJ Oshie would have been the Olympic hero that he was up until that moment. So Jake, if we're looking at the United States here, not too many Lightning players. I mean, we do have Ryan McDonough is an American, Ross Colton possibly if he has a really good season. Bogosian as a vet. I don't know if he makes the squad, but are there any hopes for the Lightning players in the United States? And if not, what are you looking for in the United States?
Well, I could definitely see Ryan McDonough making the Olympic roster for USA. I mean, he had a fantastic year last year. If he keeps that up this year, I don't see any reason why you couldn't put him into this team. So he's definitely the Lightning player with the best chance, I would say, to make the USA roster. Ross Colton, I mean, he could, but like you said, he didn't have a really good year. There's just so many good players from the USA, obviously, that it'd be really tough for him to crack the lineup. So Ryan McDonough for sure would be a number one favorite, though. But I like what you said too about this being the most well-balanced team. I mean, yeah, for the most part, you're probably right. They got a lot of good talent too as well. Johnny Gaudreau, Austin Matthews, Patrick Kane. That's a really good forward group right there, and even on defense, Adam Fox has been a really good, bright young star for the Rangers, and then Seth Jones as well is a very good defenseman. So there's definitely some good potential there with Team USA. But it's funny, even with all that talent, they still end up being underdogs when you look at teams like Canada and Russia.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna take it to Chris here. Like, you don't have to be good for an entire year. You just have to be good for 2 weeks, basically. So does the American team have a shot? Do you think this is a team that can get hot at the right time and take down guys that are maybe on a vacation for 2 weeks?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The goal scoring is definitely there, man. Guys like Matthews, Gaudreau, even younger guys, Eichel and Boser. And you got a guy like Dylan Larkin, and there's some good young guys. And if you're looking at the lines, they got the Kachuk brothers together potentially. So that could spark anything, man. I think for Team USA, if they're going to score. I think it's going to come down to the goalie situation. Obviously, you're looking at guys like Hellebuck and John Gibson. I'd probably roll with Hellebuck. I think he's a little more consistent goalie than Gibson is. More of a solidified career, in my opinion. Defense, guys like Seth Jones. Seth Jones is great talent. Werenski, got young guys. Like Jake said, Adam Fox has been playing great. Charlie McAvoy's down there. So, I mean, you look at all those guys, man, you're saying some pretty talented, skilled players' names. So, USA's definitely got a shot at gold. It's going to take, them playing some pretty perfect hockey, though. Yeah, I mean, they definitely have a really good chance.
Let's transition to maybe predictions. Let's hear you, Jake. Who we've talked about the strengths of Russia and Canada and America and Sweden maybe has a chance too. Who do you think's your odds-on favorite for the gold medal, and who are they playing in that gold medal game?
I feel like you have to go with Team Canada just because they've got so much talent. They're always in the gold medal games. It feels like they're such a good team. I feel like they're the favorites. And I mean, just Russia. I feel like those two teams are just so good that you have to be the ones playing the gold medal game. But like you guys were saying earlier, all you gotta do is get hot for 2 weeks, and you can easily make a run and potentially get into the gold medal game. If I had to pick an underdog, it'd probably be Sweden, just because they have that good of a defense that they definitely have the ability to shut down these Canada and Russia's high-powered offense. So, but Russia, Canada are, I think, the clear top two teams in this.
Chris, who do you got? Who do you got? If you had to pick right now for all the marbles, who's winning the gold medal?
America, man. USA all day. USA pulls off the upset, beats Canada 2-1 in overtime. Game-winning goal scored by Austin Matthews. Goes down in the history books. Austin Matthews is a well-known, obviously star in the league. I think he's going to step up, lead Team USA to gold. And man, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm going with the homeboys. Obviously, they gotta play some really, really good hockey. But looking at the roster, anything's possible, man. Get some momentum, play some good defense, have a solid goalie, and yeah, man, 2-1 overtime. Austin Matthews game winner, calling it now. Book it.
Oh, I love the enthusiasm, man. It's beautiful. Yeah, and you even had a score and an overtime and a winner.
Go, man. Let's do this.
Just blew me out of the water. By the way, that's Austin Matthews, EA cover athlete.
Yes. Yep.
Well, he plays in Canada for his money, so maybe he can defeat Canada for the gold. So how about that? Well, let's transition. That's the meat and potatoes. But with a little icing on the top of the cake, there was an article running around by, I believe it was Last Word on Sports. They're one of many places talking about kind of draft classes and the history, and so there's a pretty good little write-up about the best draft class in Tampa Bay Lightning history. In this article, Chris, the author basically said that 2011 was the best draft class. So that's my question to you, Chris. Do you agree? Is 2011 the best draft class? And if not, then who would you say is the best?
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd have to go with the 2011 for sure. Looking at the picks, obviously Nemestikov was a first round pick. Did he pan out to be a first round pick? No, probably not in my opinion, but he had some pretty solid seasons for us. Not that first round pick season, but I think he was the guy we needed at that time. And then you're looking obviously Cooch. What else do you say? But everything, all the good things you say about Cooch. Cooch is an amazing player. Second round pick, 58th overall. So I think, how do you go wrong with Cooch? And then we got that steal with Palat in the seventh round, and Palat's been nothing but
Wow.
consistent every single
Wow.
season. Palat is the definition of consistency. Guy's always there. Guy's always playing hard. Highly underrated in the league. I think the league needs to watch out for Palat. I think he's still got a lot left in the tank. Um, and then some of the other draft picks, Nikita Nesterov, obviously he's no longer with the team. Adam Wilcox and Matthew Pekka. So yeah, man. I mean, got to go with 2011. That's a pretty solid draft class. We still have Cooch. Obviously, we still have Palat. So the Lightning, definitely, like we said, we talked about the pipeline, man. We've been pretty good at drafting players. We've been pretty good at scouting and developing these guys. So that's definitely one of our strengths, and that's why we have back-to-back cups. So this was definitely one of the better draft classes for the Lightning.
Jake, 2011 is one of the few draft classes that every single person that the Lightning drafted at least played one game in the NHL. That's kind of a weird statistic because most of the time it's a crapshoot. I mean, we know that, and I know we had talked off air that like basically you can't. You don't know what you have in a draft until 3 years down the road. So, what are your thoughts on 2011? And are they the best draft class? And what would you say is another really good draft class?
2011 was obviously a extremely solid draft class for the Lightning. I definitely think it's up there for one of the best draft classes the Lightning have ever had. But there's a couple ways to look at this. I think, if you're looking at just amount of NHL games played, 2011 I think is clearly the best because you mentioned every player had at least one game played in the NHL. If you're looking at value, 2011 is really good there, but there's a lot of other good drafts from the Lightning as well. Like, you look at 2008 when the Lightning picked up Steven Stamkos. You could argue that was the start of the building the team that we have today. So that
Okay.
first pick for Steven Stamkos was, pretty darn important. Even the Victor Hedman draft as well had a lot of good players in there. Even Richard Panik as well, who played for us for a long time as well. And then Eureka, you mentioned this before we started as well, but the 1988 draft where you had Vinny and Brad Richards as your top two picks. Richard was actually a third round pick as well. Both guys who played at the end of the day over 1,100 games in the NHL. So
Each of them.
each. That's a ton of, and a lot of it was with the Lightning as well. So, and those guys obviously big parts of bringing the first Stanley Cup to Tampa Bay in 04. So, I think for quality, 2011 is probably the best, but I think 1988 was a pretty darn important draft class. And then you could get into the whole, people like to do those trade trees and seeing which guys were drafted, turn into that stuff. So there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down with these draft classes. But I think 2011 and 1988 are probably the two top contenders, and really 88's only there just because of Vinny and Brad Richards and how good they were.
Yeah, 98 was definitely a well, and you got to think too, like so from the inception of the team in 1992, that was really the first amazing draft class that they had. So their first ever draft, they did have like Roman Hamrlik first overall, and it's a tough thing to get number one overall right, and they've done it twice. If you want to talk, Hamrlik for what he meant to the early Lightning, and of course Stamkos, probably the best, or LeCavier, and then they did it with Stammer as well. So, But that 98 draft, I mean, just kind of solidified. Maybe that was the beginning of that first Cup team, like you were saying. And up until then, it's kind of been like, I mean, if we look at the 93 draft, man, only 3 out of the 11 rounds, 11 guys that they had picked that year, only 3 of them played, and 2 of those guys didn't even play more than 31 games in the NHL completely. Then they almost like pretty much bombed the 94 draft as well, other than 2 guys that played over 700 games. And then 95 was kind of like, other than Langkow, no one really played that much. But 98, though, boom, 2 guys, over 2,400 games played, almost 2,000 points scored between Vinny and Brad Richards in their careers. I mean, and you might see Brad Richards' number get retired. He's definitely one of those guys that's, when we're looking at the early history of the Lightning, that fans bring up as like a key, crucial part of this Lightning team. Chris, how do you feel about maybe the guys we've drafted recently? Is there? I know that it's way too early to call some of these guys, but we're just now seeing the fruits of like the 2015 draft really solidify with Cirelli and Joseph being mainstays on the team. Ross Colton was drafted the year after that. We're starting to see Cal Foote get his foot wet in the NHL. How are you feeling about the young guys right now, and maybe a couple guys in the future you're keeping your eye on?
I think we got a ton of potential, and I trust our developmental guys. Like I said, I think that we've been really good at developing guys. So I think the guy that I'm most keeping my eye on right now, that I think has the most potential, is Ross Colton. Okay. I've seen a lot from him. Very, very, very good. Very good. Like he has good poise for his age. I feel like coming into the league, I feel like he really wasn't nervous in his games. He looked like he was ready to go. He was NHL ready, and I think they brought him up at the perfect time. I think he's definitely got the most potential, in my opinion. I think the guy I want to see big time improvement from is Foote. I think Foote definitely had a down year last year. I think I had higher hopes. I'm hoping it's just rust. I'm hoping it's just kind of a bad start. We can start it back over with him and give him another shot. Maybe more consistency will help him. Maybe more playing time. Maybe change up the lines a little bit. So maybe sending him back down last year kind of woke him up. Like, okay, this is what I need to work on. This is what I need to do. Boom, come back with NHL mentality and be ready to play with the big boys. So Colton for my guy that I think has the most potential. And I got to go with Foote for the guy I think just needs a little bit more improvement.
And Jake, how are you feeling about the future of the Lightning? Are there any new guys that we haven't even thought about that we've drafted that you have your eye on?
Well, it's obviously tough to say. You need at the very least like 3 years to even get a good read on some of these players, because as you mentioned at the beginning of this, the truth is you really don't know how these guys are going to pan out. But there are a lot of picks I liked from the Lightning from this last draft. Look at a guy like Dylan Duke. I know a lot of people are excited to see how he plays. Even Roman Schmidt looks like a pretty decent defender as well. There were some good players from last year's draft. There's definitely a lot of potential that people were high on. I know we had who was it that we drafted that was 6'6"? I think it was Jack Finley, if I'm not mistaken, who's just a monster of a player as well. So that's another guy I'm really excited to see how he plays out. But only time will tell. There's definitely some potential down there. I got a question for you guys though, because I just noticed looking at the all this draft statistics. When was the last time the Lightning had a top 10 pick in the NHL draft? Don't look though. No cheating.
I know it feels like forever, but it had to have been. Maybe was it that 2011 draft?
Not quite. Chris, you got a guess?
Oh man. Just so I don't sit here and hesitate for an hour and a half and bore our listeners, I'm gonna go with 97.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, that's a really long time.
I was
No,
to say that's way too damn.
the last time was 2013. Jonathan Drouin, who was the
Drouin,
third overall
yeah.
pick. But I mean, look at it. It's funny. Look at his last couple of years. The Lightning really haven't had that many first-round picks, man. Nolan Foote was a 27th. So that's really just a late second. And then, but a lot of these picks, Cal Foote was a 14th overall. But, Lightning tend to trade away their first overall picks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, or they're just not. I mean, I don't want to say good enough, but in the case of Drouin, you get a guy who obviously has potential. Maybe wanted to get a little further along than he was ready for in the minds of the front office, and so not that he's had a bad career since. I mean, we just beat him in Montreal for the Stanley Cup, so pretty decent career he's putting together. So, well. Guys, that's all we had planned for today. And one last thing I want to say for the listeners, thank you for spending your time with us, whether you're listening to us when you're driving around or on your lunch break or coming to and from work. We really appreciate everything that you do to take your time to listen to us babble about the team that you love. Again, I'll ask you for one thing, and that's there's that link in the description. If you go to Creative Loafing's Best of the Bay, if you could vote for us for Best Podcast, we really do work really hard to give you the best sports coverage for your favorite teams, and so we just ask if you could do that for us. It would really help us. Another thing you can do that's absolutely free to help us is follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We are at RBLR Sports, as well as whatever you're listening to us on right now. Hit that little like button. Hit that subscribe button. Maybe it says follow button, but if you're on Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio or YouTube, the very best thing you can do is subscribe, because it gets all the robots and algorithms and all that stuff so that we can find even more Bolts, Bucks, Lightning, Rowdies, you name it. We cover everything for you. So, well, that's enough for all of us, guys. Chris, I'll give you your final thoughts. And what are you feeling, man? We're about a month away from real hockey.
Feeling good, man. Obviously, I always have anxiety, and I'm always hype about sports. So the anxiety will start to creep in here slowly. Right now, my anxiety, not gonna lie, man, it's on the Bucks. Football's right here. Thursday night's a big game. It's a big game for Tampa. Thursday night football, first game of the season against the Cowboys. So there's gonna be a lot of eyes on that game. So I'm pumped for that. Usually I would end it with the Go Bolts, but I'm gonna end today with the Go Bucks.
There we go. Jake, the floor is yours. You are the last voice that we will hear tonight. My friend, final thoughts, and give us a big old Go Bolts on the way out.
Oh, man, we are just around the corner. Guys, preseason hockey starts this month, too. So, I know it's only preseason, but obviously super exciting just to have hockey back. We are so close. A lot of fun things this year. The Olympics, like we talked about on this episode. We got the outdoor game coming up. We still are waiting on our second Stanley Cup rings. Should be another really fun year. Cannot wait. And go Bolts, baby.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.